The sun rises slowly over a land that does not care if you live or die. Long before cities, before names, before memory itself learned how to hold on to meaning, the light touches the earth the same way it always has, without mercy and without kindness. The grass bends under the wind. The insects begin their endless song. Somewhere far away, something hungry wakes up. You open your eyes and the first thing you feel is hunger. Not the soft discomfort modern people call hunger, but the deep, hollow ache that lives in the bones. It has lived there since birth. It will live there until death. You do not question it. Hunger is not a problem to solve. It is a condition of being alive. Your name is Kalo. No one ever said it aloud. Names are gestures, glances, recognition in the eyes of others. You are young, though no one measures years. Your body is thin, hardened by walking, scarred by mistakes. Your hands already know the weight of stone. The night has barely loosened its grip when you rise from the dirt. Sleep never comes easily. It is shallow, fragile, easily broken by sound. The ground is cold beneath you. Nearby, others stir small shapes wrapped in shadows, breathing quietly so as not to invite attention from the dark. Fire still lives. Barely. A dull orange heart hidden beneath ash. Someone feeds it a twig, slow and careful. Fire is life, but fire is also loud, bright, dangerous. It must be treated like a nervous animal. Beyond the circle of warmth lies the open world. Tall grass sways gently, hiding more than it reveals. The air smells of damp earth and decay, the scent of things that lived yesterday and did not survive the night. You listen. Listening is how you stay alive. There are sounds you know well, birds calling, insects buzzing, the soft movement of wind through leaves, and then there are the sounds you fear, the pause where sound should be, the heavy silence that means something is watching. No one speaks. Speech is rare, used only when necessary. Noise carries. Noise tells the world where you are. An older woman meets your eyes. Her hair is thin and grey, her back bent, her gaze sharp with memory. She gestures toward the river. Your stomach tightens. The river is both gift and grave. It gives water, food, life. It also takes. It has taken many. It took your sister. You were smaller then. You remember the way she laughed, a breathy sound that escaped before she could stop it. You remember the splash, the sudden violence of water exploding upward, the scream cut short. You remember how the river closed again, smooth and silent, as if nothing had happened. No body was found. There never is. The elders say the river remembers every human it has killed. You rise slowly. There is no refusal. Survival is not about courage or bravery. It is about doing what must be done even when fear burns in your chest. You pick up a stone tool, chipped and worn smooth by use. It fits your hand perfectly, shaped by generations of trial and error. This stone is knowledge. This stone is inheritance. Others follow at a distance. No one goes alone, but no one goes close enough to endanger the group. Survival is shared, but death is individual. As you walk, the sun climbs higher, warming the land, revealing what the night concealed. Bones lie scattered near the path, white, cracked, gnawed. You do not stop to look. Bones are common. Bones are reminders. The grass thins as you approach the river. The air changes, damp, heavy. Still, the water moves slowly, deceptively calm. Its surface reflects the sky, beautiful and indifferent. You know better than to trust it. You crouch low, scanning for ripples that do not belong to the wind. Crocodiles do not hunt like other predators. They wait. They become part of the water. Ancient, patient, perfect. You remember being told, without words, how to survive this place. Never stand tall near water. Never turn your back. Never assume you are alone. Your heart beats faster. You can hear it in your ears. You hate that sound. It feels loud. A bird suddenly takes flight nearby. Your body freezes. Every muscle tightens. You wait. Nothing happens. Slowly, carefully, you move closer, using stones to test the ground. Mud sucks at your feet. One wrong step is enough. You think of your sister's hand reaching out, fingers spread, empty. The group gathers water quickly, silently. Someone points to a fish trapped in shallow water. Opportunity and danger share the same space. You step forward. The river does not move. You bend, stone raised, ready. And then the water shifts. Not much. Just enough. Your breath stops. The ripple is wrong. Too slow, too deliberate. You retreat instantly, heart hammering, signaling the others. Everyone backs away. No one argues. Survival is obedience to fear. Moments later, the river explodes. A massive shape lunges where you stood seconds before, jaws snapping shut on empty air. Water sprays, power, speed, death narrowly avoided. Then silence again. The crocodile disappears beneath the surface, as if mocking you. as if reminding you how close the end always is. You step back, trembling, alive. The group does not celebrate. There is no relief, only the understanding that tomorrow you must return. And the day after that, and the day after that, until one day you do not come back. You carry water home. It is heavy. Everything is heavy. When you return, a child reaches for you, eyes wide, trusting. You hand them a small stone flake, showing how to hold it, how to strike. Knowledge pass quietly, lovingly, desperately. As the sun climbs higher, heat presses down on the land. Hunger remains. Danger remains. Life continues. This is how the day begins, and it is only the beginning. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. The sun rose higher, casting long, golden reflections across the river, yet its warmth did little to calm the tension that clung to the air. Kylo crouched low, every muscle taut as he moved along the water's edge. He had learned to read the river like a living thing, to feel its currents in his chest, to sense its moods in the ripple of reeds. Each step was deliberate, measured, as though the river could feel him coming and would strike if he faltered. The river had long memories. It remembered the feet that slipped, the screams that echoed, the hands that reached too far. Kylo remembered his sister had not survived its patience. He had carried that memory like a stone in his stomach, heavy and unrelenting. Every time he approached the water, it reminded him of what waited beneath the surface, waiting for careless hearts and unsteady hands. A shadow slid beneath the mirrored surface, and Kylo froze. He held his breath, straining his ears against the gentle hum of insects and the soft murmur of water. For a moment, the world became still, as if the land itself were holding its breath. Then a ripple betrayed the predator's presence, subtle but undeniable, and his heart slammed against his ribs. He moved backward, slowly, without turning his back, keeping the water between him and the creature below. The crocodile was patient, unmoving, its presence a silent threat that Kylo could feel rather than see. He remembered the stories, though not told in words, of humans who had underestimated the river, who had assumed they could control the wild. They were gone now, their bones whitening on the shores, their screams only a faint echo in memory. The group behind him also froze, eyes wide, bodies still as the earth. One small mistake could turn the river into a tomb. They had learned, through terror, that survival demanded vigilance, attention, and the quiet obedience of instinct. Noise could mean death. Movement could mean death. One careless thought could mean death. A fish broke the surface nearby, oblivious to the danger beneath. Kylo's stomach twisted with hunger and fear. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to strike, to seize the food and retreat. But he knew the river was not forgiving. He waited. Patience was survival. Patience was life. A sudden splash to his right made his muscles tense like coiled stone. Water exploded into the air, and the predator lunged for a shadow that was no longer there. Kylo flinched, chest tight, pulse roaring in his ears. The creature's power was terrifying, elemental and unrelenting. It did not hunt for sport. It hunted for existence, as all creatures did in this harsh world. He crouched, lower eyes, scanning for another sign, and noticed a small ripple where none should be. The water moved with intention, slow and deliberate. It was the river's warning. Leave now, or risk becoming part of its memory. Kylo obeyed, moving backward, careful to maintain distance, careful not to attract attention. The group followed, every step silent, every movement a prayer. Behind them, the river returned to stillness, as if nothing had happened, as if it had been waiting all along. They traveled further along the bank, seeking safer spots where smaller prey might be gathered, where the water's edge could be crossed with less risk. Stones, sticks, and fallen branches became tools, weapons, and shields. Every step was a negotiation with death. Every breath was borrowed time. Kylo's mind wandered, as it always did, when danger was near but not immediate. He thought of the elders who had taught him how to survive, of the child whose small hands clutched at him for guidance, of the sister whose laughter had been stolen by the river. Grief lingered like a shadow, following him, never leaving. It was a companion as constant as fear itself. The river seemed to hum around them, the gentle lap of water against stones, a lullaby that promised nothing. They stopped near a shallow bend, where the current slowed and food might be found. Kylo gestured, silently, to the others, signaling caution. The younger members approached with care, learning, watching, absorbing. Every movement was a lesson in life and death. A sudden surge of movement beneath the water made him freeze again. The crocodile had moved silently, its immense body gliding through the current, unseen, until it decided to reveal itself. Kylo's heart thundered. He remembered the screams of animals and humans alike. The sudden violent chaos of life ended in a flash of jaws and water. He stepped back slowly, dragging a small fish from the shallows with a stick. It was enough to satisfy hunger for a moment, though not for long. Every bite was tainted by fear, every moment of relief shadowed by memory. The river had taught him that nothing came without cost. As the day wore on, the heat rose, pressing against skin and breath alike. Sweat ran in rivers down his back, mixing with the dust and dirt of the land. Kayla watched the river closely, always aware, always alert. He could not afford distraction. Death was patient, and it was everywhere. By mid-afternoon, the group had gathered enough food to sustain them for a short time. The crocodile had vanished beneath the water, leaving only the faintest ripple as evidence that it had been there. Kalo did not relax. There was no comfort in survival, only temporary reprieve. As they began their return, Kalo noticed the shadows growing longer, the light softening, the familiar threat of night pressing in. The river glistened like molten metal, beautiful and merciless, indifferent to pain or triumph. He knew that this day, like every other, was borrowed. Life was never permanent. It was fleeting, fragile and precious because of its fragility. He glanced back once, eyes tracing the river's winding path. Somewhere beneath its surface, the predator waited. Somewhere beneath its calm, mirrored face, death lurked, patient and unyielding. Kalo swallowed hard. Tomorrow would bring more hunger, more danger, more fear. It could survive today, but the river remembered, and it always waited. And as the group moved inland, leaving the river behind for now, Kalo carried with him the weight of loss, of lessons learned too early, of survival earned at the cost of innocence. The land was harsh, the world unkind, and yet life endured. The day had been survived, the night would test them again, and still, the river watched. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. The night had fallen like a heavy blanket, and the land was quiet but not safe. Shadows stretched long and thin, reaching across the grass, hiding more than they revealed. The air was cool, but it carried the scent of earth and blood, the faint tang of animals and something older, something ancient that lingered unseen. Kalo moved carefully, alert to every whisper of sound, every subtle shift in the darkness. Even the wind seemed dangerous, capable of carrying threats closer without warning. He thought of the sister he had lost, of her laughter carried away by the river, her small hand slipping through his own as the water swallowed her. He had never stopped feeling that loss. It was not grief as modern humans might understand it. It was memory carved into his bones, a constant reminder that the world was not a place of mercy. Each day he survived, it was borrowed time, and every step carried the weight of those who had not. The group was smaller now, some members too weak, too young, or too old to move quickly. Kalo led them silently, his eyes scanning every shadow, every glimmer in the tall grass. The land was alive with predators. Lions, hyenas, and the ever-present crocodiles waited patiently. Predators of perfect instinct. Kalo had learned to avoid them, to understand them, to respect them, but fear never left him. Fear was his companion, steady and unyielding. A scream suddenly cut through the night, sharp, short, full of terror. Kalo froze, heart hammering in his chest. The sound came from the riverbank. He sprinted toward it, moving with careful speed, stone tool in hand. The river had claimed another. One of the younger members, a boy barely taller than his knees, had been too close, had leaned too far, had been careless for only a moment. The water had exploded in a sudden, violent arc, and a massive shape had struck, jaws closing with precision born of millennia. The boy's scream had ended abruptly. The river swallowed him without effort, without remorse, leaving only ripples and silence. Kalo could do nothing but watch and learn again the lesson that death was patient and humans were fragile. He turned away from the river, stomach tight, hands trembling, and gathered the remaining group. No words were spoken. There was no comfort to be given. The grief was sharp, immediate, a wound that burned. They moved inland, leaving the water and the boy behind, swallowed by darkness. The fire, which had offered warmth and safety, was a distant glow now, too far to reach in time. Kalo's mind wandered, as it often did, to memories of laughter, of learning, of innocence, stolen too early. He thought of the sister whose face he could still see in the shadows of night, of the mother who had held him close and whispered guidance that would never protect him completely. The world was unforgiving. The river, the land, the predators, they had no reason for kindness. Only survival mattered, and it was never guaranteed. The group huddled together for the night, sharing the little warmth they could muster, breathing softly to avoid attracting attention. Kalo kept watch, eyes straining through the darkness. Every sound, every movement, every whisper of the wind could be a predator, could be death. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. Every decision, every step, Every glance could mean life or loss for the others. Sleep came in fragments, shallow and fleeting, filled with nightmares of what they had seen, of what might come next. Kylo dreamed of the river opening like a mouth, of his sister's face, of shadows that moved with intent. When he awoke, the memory of the boy's scream lingered, a reminder that survival was temporary, that life was precious because it was fragile. Morning arrived with muted light, gray and soft, casting long shadows across the land. The group moved again, cautious, weary, yet compelled forward by the same hunger and fear that had driven them since dawn. Every step was careful, every glance measured. They avoided the river, knowing its patience was endless, its appetite unrelenting. Every ripple, every movement beneath the surface could be a final moment. Kylo felt the exhaustion in his muscles, the ache in his bones, but he didn't falter. He had learned that true leadership isn't about power, but about knowledge and vigilance. He passed on small lessons to the younger ones, how to watch, how to move, how to understand the land and the creatures that ruled it. Survival was a shared effort, and every life preserved was a victory. But victory always came at a cost, a price that could never be forgotten. The land remained indifferent, a silent witness to countless stories of loss and endurance. Kylo walked on, carrying his grief and memories alongside the heavy weight of responsibility. Hunger gnawed at him, but it was nothing compared to the chilling knowledge that death was always near. As he looked at the faces of those who had survived, he understood that life, even temporary and costly, was a triumph. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. The night had passed slowly, each hour stretching longer than the last, and when the first light of dawn touched the land, Kylo felt it like a quiet relief, though not comfort. The fire had burned low, its orange glow fading into grey ash, but its warmth had held them through the dark. Around him, the small group stirred, bodies stiff and sore, faces etched with exhaustion and sorrow. Sleep had been fragmented, filled with shadows and half-remembered cries, but still they had survived. For now, that was enough. Kylo rose carefully, muscles aching from hours of vigilance, and looked toward the river. Its surface shimmered in the pale morning light, beautiful and merciless, calm yet knowing. Somewhere beneath it, the crocodiles waited, patient and unhurried, as they always had. The river remembered everything, and humans were never more than a temporary presence upon its banks. He shivered, not from cold, but from the raw memory of loss, of watching those he cared for snatched by water and teeth, of the boy whose life had ended too soon, and the sister whose laughter had been stolen so long ago. He turned to the others. Their eyes met his, wide and uncertain, but alive. That was the most precious thing, the most miraculous. They had endured another night, another day, and with that endurance came the fragile promise of tomorrow. Kylo handed small stone flakes to the younger members, showing them how to grip, how to strike, how to use knowledge as a shield against the indifference of the world. Every gesture was heavy with meaning. Every lesson was survival etched into flesh and memory. They moved slowly inland, away from the river, avoiding the places where the water's edge hid teeth and patience. Each step was deliberate, measured, aware. Every rustle in the grass, every shifting shadow, reminded them that life was fragile, and survival was never certain. Kylo's heart still pounded with the memory of the attacks, of the screams, of the violence that had come so easily, so suddenly. He carried grief and fear together, inseparable, yet he also carried something else, hope, small, fleeting, but stubborn, the hope that another day might be lived, another lesson taught, another hand held against the darkness. The sun climbed higher, painting the land in colors that were bright and cruel. Hunger gnawed at them again, but they moved on, careful not to slow, careful not to stumble. Kylo's hands trembled as he reached for water, but he steadied himself, teaching the younger ones to do the same. Every action was a reminder that life could be taken in an instant, and yet it could also be preserved with knowledge, vigilance, and love. As they walked, Kylo thought of all they had lost, the sister, the boy, the countless others whose names had faded into silence. He did not speak of them. Words would not hold what the heart knew, but he carried them still, in memory, in lessons, in careful eyes watching every shadow. Loss was constant, but life endured, and that endurance was a quiet triumph. The land around them was alive, harsh and unyielding. Lions roared in the distance, and the wind carried whispers of distant predators. But the group pressed forward, small and fragile against the enormity of the world, yet alive. They had survived another night. They had survived another day. And in that survival, there was meaning, however fleeting or fragile. Kylo paused and looked at the horizon. The river glimmered behind them, silent and patient, as if reminding him that life was a borrowed gift, temporary and precious. He knelt by the fire for a moment, rubbing his hands, feeling the warmth return. The young ones clustered near him, seeking guidance, seeking safety, seeking the knowledge that might allow them to endure the world, and Kalo gave it, silently, without fanfare, passing lessons like a torch, fragile and precious, from one generation to the next. He thought of the days ahead, knowing that each sunrise would bring hunger, danger, and loss. But he also knew that each day survived was a victory, each breath a triumph over the indifference of the earth. The river remembered, the predators waited, and yet they moved forward, alive, carrying memory, fear, and hope together. As the sun rose fully, casting golden light across the land, Kalo felt something he had not allowed himself to feel in a long time, a quiet gratitude, not for safety, not for comfort, not for certainty none of those existed, but for the fragile, fleeting, extraordinary thing that was life. He reached down, guiding a small child's hands and striking a stone, showing the way to survive. The child's eyes met his, wide with understanding, and in that moment, Kalo realized that survival was more than living. It was teaching, remembering, and enduring. The day had been survived, but life would test them again, and still, they would move forward. Every heartbeat, every cautious step, every careful glance toward the river was an act of defiance against the indifference of the world. Every life preserved was a story. Every memory carried was a victory. And as Kalo led the group toward the shelter, leaving the shimmering, merciless river behind for now, he knew this truth. Survival was never permanent, but it was sacred. The night had been endured, the river had been remembered, and life, fragile and fleeting, had triumphed once more. And for now, that was enough. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.